Well, welcome. It's crack on 4 p.m. here in the UK. I am Meredith Henson. I am coming to you from Brighton, UK, from the top floor of my flat. So we'll be joined by seagulls at some point. You can maybe hear them squawking in the background. I'm hoping that only adds to the experience for those that aren't living by the sea right now. I'm joined by my colleague Matt Lineker, who will be keeping an eye on the chat and on the time and generally on me. If you do have any questions, please do post in the chat. I'll be stopping regularly to check if there are any messages or any questions or anything that I need to go over. It's very much an interactive session today, so if I'm not covering something or and you'd like me to, please do ask. I can adapt. So, Matt, anything to add to that?
No, it's just great to have everyone here, and it's great to be able to talk to people who are real people.
Well, we're only assuming that, but I recognise some of the names, so I'm certain exist. I hope everyone here is well, and yeah, doing well in this incredible time that we're living in. So today's session is going to be primarily actually a live configuration setting, so it won't be a bunch of PowerPoint slides. We are recording the session and it will be available on the community either today or more likely tomorrow. If you want to review again or to share with any colleagues, hopefully it's something you'd like to share. And I will I'll be flicking backwards and forwards a little bit. This is just really the first slide and probably the only slide that you guys are going to have to see today. And it's just a little bit of a explanation of what we're covering today, just to make sure that that matches your expectations. So I'm not going to be covering how to create new custom themes within Totara. That's beyond my capabilities, that you need a developer or a front-end designer to create brand new custom themes. What I want to cover today is going through and creating configuration-based design. So implementing designs and adding navigation and different elements of look and feel to your site using the user interface, the administrative interface, and some of the functionality that exists within Totara. If you happen to have HTML, CSS, JavaScript skills, you can build on what I'm covering today and adding a few more bits and pieces. But I don't personally hold those skills, so this is just really designing for non-designers. If you're interested in seeing what some really nice looking custom themes might look like, you can go through our case study area on our website, our customer stories, which often have screenshots of what other customers and subscribers to Totara have done and other partners have implemented. And that might be just out of interest to see what everyone else is up to. Or it might be just trying to get some inspiration about what you might want to do with your site. And the next time you go through maybe an update or upgrade is an excellent time to update your theme as well. So today I'm going to be working off what we call a vanilla installation. So that's a version 12 site installed on my little laptop here. I haven't done much to it at all, so that it's kind of a live makeover. Probably creating myself quite a risky environment, but we're fingers crossed that it's all going to go well. What I have done to that site is create one example learner in case I want to log in and see what the learner has what their experience is like. I've created a couple of categories in a simple one empty course. I've gone through some of the theme settings, which I'm going to go through probably first off, and pick some colors that weren't hideous. I was tempted to make a really bright, ugly site just to show you where all those different elements display, but decided to go with a very soft blue palette since we don't need any more excitement in our lives at the moment. And I have also created and downloaded a number of images, and they're either open source images or icons or graphics that Totara themselves have created. So I'm not breaching any copyright laws, and I added that in not so much as a disclaimer for me, but when you are creating any sort of designs on your site and adding any images from the internet, do be aware of any copyright and that you own or have the rights to use the images that you use. You'll see some of the images are very familiar kind of stock images that you'll see across the internet. The other thing I've done is I've got my other normal version 12 site that I use for demos and training and for screenshots and some of the material that you'll see produced by Totara, like our feature sheets. And I'm just calling that one I prepared earlier so I can show you what the finished product could potentially look like. One thing I will say is that my local site that has had some design elements added is, again, no skill on my part in terms of design or HTML. I'm sure everyone on this call is probably far more creative and design focused than I am. I nearly failed art when I was at high school, so please don't use my abilities as a basis for understanding what Totara Learn can actually do for you out of the box. Any questions, Matt?
So there's no questions currently, but as you go, if anyone has any questions, feel free to add them in the chat, and we'll answer them as and when we can.
Okay. So what I'm going to do now, thanks Matt, is switch over to my live site. So just bear with me as I switch screens around and then restart the sharing, hopefully. Okay. Are you seeing a very, very empty Totara site there, Matt?
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's better now. Yeah, small things on it.
Very, very bare. Yeah. Okay. Excuse me. Alrighty. So as I say, this is pretty much empty. I've just done a little bit in preparation for this session, but this is very much the blank canvas. So where I want to start is I'm logged in as a site administrator. And as I go in here, there's a section here called Appearance. And I want to go to Basis. Now, Basis is the default theme that Totara Learn offers. And there are some configuration options where you can apply some different colors and logos to your site. Now, this is what I was talking about when I said that I'd prepared a little bit of the blue color palette earlier. So under these settings here, I can upload a new logo, and that logo is entered in where my mouse is hopefully frantically wiggling for you and trying to make it big. There we go. And you can add whatever image that you like here. It is restricted to the size that of this main menu navigation area. So if you have a particularly large or square logo, you might want to think about stretching it to be horizontal so that you can see it more like the Totara Learn. So as an example, I will upload one of my example images. This is a small square image. And if I save my changes, you'll see it's very, very small here. So you need to think about your logo before you update it. Again, around the custom theme and some of the minor changes, that's something that a partner can do. They can expand the size of that navigation bar. This is only one option of where you could put your logo. You might choose to add it in a different section, which I'm going to cover shortly, rather than use this particular area here for the logo. If you don't like that logo, you can actually right click on here. There's those seagulls I promised you. And you can delete that. Once you delete, if you want to make any changes, you simply go to the bottom and save. So there are lots of options. So the favia icon, that is the icon that is displayed in your browser bar. You can again upload that so it's a custom image. You can do by drag and drop, or you can browse and add. And then you can have an alternative text if you hover over your logo. Now, there are a huge range of different options here. So most organizations will have a standard color palette. These are all HTML code. and you can find those if you, well, the marketing department, the design department will probably have those handy, but there's a number of ways to tools on the internet to pick colours and enter them, or you can actually just hover over any of this colour palette here and select your particular colour. So you have options around changing the colour of the text, which is the text on screen, the colour of any links, and that includes if you put a URL link in, or any links like in the navigation bar here, or navigation blocks. There are visited colour, so once you've clicked on a link, typically on the internet it's sort of a blue or a purple once you've visited it. And your different button colours. So there's a standard button colour, which would be the Save Changes down the bottom here, and then any other buttons, a primary button. We've got a background colour, main content background colour, secondary content, and if you note that these are all kind of different shades of blue, and any navigation text colour. You can then save changes, and the trick here is at the very top here is this enable style override. So this is why I've selected these colours, and if I now click this, do brace yourselves for a blue-green experience here. This is now what this my Totara site looks like. Now I'm probably going to remove this blue, depends on how offensive it is. There's maybe create a vote or something in the chat there, Matt, and see what people think. But you can see that you can play around a lot. My recommendation is if you have your standard colours, that perhaps you change one of these elements at a time just to see what it looks like. Using really bright, obnoxious colours like the bright greens and the bright pinks and the bright blues are a good idea to work out where, well, what's a button, what's a primary button. If I go to the Find Learning area, you can see these different button colours here. If I go into a course, you can see more in terms of like if editing is on, the different colours and how they interact. If you use these really bright, obnoxious colours, then you know exactly where they are, and you can go back and you can add in your particular HTML code colours as you need. Any questions so far, Matt?
Yeah, so Sue Blake is asking, is it best to use a PNG format for the logo?
Oh, I don't think it really matters hugely. I think, let's have a look. I mean, you probably want to use a JPEG, but I would try an EPS as well. It might be for a responsive design. Maybe have a play with that.
Okay. And Daniel's asking, does the theme support SVG images?
I believe it does, yeah. And that was, I guess, how we also make it responsive.
Okay. And here's a good question from Raoul. So at the moment, we're showing the Totara Learn logo, but is it possible to remove that default logo without updating a new logo?
Oh, that is a good question. Kind of. What I would simply do is upload a transparent box as the logo, so that you essentially create a blank space, a transparent space instead of it, and basically mask it.
Yeah, so use the same color as you're using at the top there, and just
yeah, exactly. That's one approach. Again, if you want anything slightly more complicated than what we're doing, or just like a minor change here and there, a partner will be able to assist, and they might be able to just do a simple kind of HTML or CSS tweak to remove some items.
And Ben's suggesting he'd recommend a PNG, so the transparency of the logo is there. If you change, saying if you change your background color, this means that you won't have to match the color of your logo image to the background.
Nice, thanks, Ben. Certainly out of my area of expertise in terms of file types.
And then Dan is asking, does the logo area have a fixed size?
A fixed size? Well, it's only going to be as big as the space, that the area has a fixed size. So even if you upload a large image, it's going to rescale to this kind of, it's limited to this length and width of the navigation bar by default.
Okay, Hatish is asking, are the logo images responsive when viewed on a mobile device?
It depends on how you've with the format, I suppose, of the image that you've uploaded. Let's try and see what it looks like. Yeah, it appears it is. It's pretty much fixed, isn't it? On this particular example. I think it depends on the file format that you use. If you use a standard image that doesn't scale, maybe it doesn't. Again, I think this is probably more of a question for a front-end designer than for me. So we can maybe look at having another session with the likes of Matt Stokes, being able to answer these types of questions.
That's good. Those are all the questions we've had currently, though. So thanks for those.
Okay. So we can do some interesting things around these theme settings. Like I say, I suggest making some horrific colors so that you can see where they're all kept and then go back and retrospectively fit in your color palettes. Like makeup, less is more. You don't have to have a colored background, so having a plain white background is absolutely and perfectly fine. And in that case, 5. Sometimes it's a little easier to see other items, particularly backgrounds of blocks. So I've changed the main primary color back to white, at least for this process, so that we can see the outline of blocks. Now, the other thing with themes that not everyone necessarily knows is that here under Site Administration Appearance, under these theme settings, there's a couple of options that are disabled by default, which allow you to do some more exciting things around assigning themes, different themes. Now, this makes the assumption that you have multiple custom themes installed. But if you do that, you can also allow themes to be assigned per user. So a user can choose which theme they see the site and all of the content within the site, or you can assign that theme to them via their profile. You can allow course themes, which means, again, if you've got multiple custom themes installed, you can have courses using different themes. There is a site theme, but then a different course theme. And then category themes. And category themes allow you to apply a theme to a category and all the courses with it. And that can be different from the site theme or any other category themes. And note that if you've got a lot of themes and a lot of categories, that can have some impact on overall performance, potentially, if we're talking lots and lots and lots of users. But I've never seen it actually slow it down. I'm just told that potentially that could happen. Right. Was there? I'm sure I saw something flash up on chat. Was there anything I need to answer there, Matt?
No, not at the moment, unless anyone has anything they want to sneak in this.
Yeah, they could. Okay. Excuse me. So the other really exciting thing around configuration design, and this was introduced within version 12, was all the new block regions. And by block regions, I'm sitting on the front page with editing on, and that creates all these little areas highlighted by these dotted lines and these plus icons called block regions, and that's areas that we can add blocks. And in Totara 12, we added a header block here and a footer block, and that introduced some really exciting opportunities to improve the way that you can add graphical navigation, and potentially this is where you could add a larger logo without getting into the theme development. So the other neat thing is that, of course, we've got drag and drop, so you can move items to, in this case, a very strange place, but you can move blocks around just through drag and drop, which gives you a lot of flexibility. And the other thing we introduced within version 12 was some additional block settings. And now this also may not seem super exciting when you first look at it, but it means that you can do some interesting things, particularly with the HTML block and the featured links block, which I'll talk about in a second. So ignoring my delightful baby blue in the background here, what you can do is you can change the title of a block. So in this case, we're looking at the calendar block. you can select to override that default block and give it a name, or you can completely remove the header and therefore the title as well. And you can also prevent, actually if I just select that now, you can also remove the border, which is that grey outline around the block itself. So I've got 2 blocks here on the right that do not have a border and 2 on the left that do. And you can see the difference there, that it's just a display choice whether you want to look like they're floating or whether you want some sort of definition around those blocks. And it really depends on the type of block. I think it works nicely for the calendar block, but maybe for administration it's kind of nice to have that sort of highlighted in a way. Now, I mentioned that this opens up some interesting opportunities around the HTML block and the featured links block. So let's talk about that. So I need to turn editing back on. And what I'm going to do is add some an image here on, where should I add it? I might add it to the right here, and I'm going to add an HTML block. And then I'm going to configure it. And here I'm going to add an image. So this is where I browse my previously created repository of stock photos. So I can't really see the thumbnail, so it's anybody's guess what's going to come up. And when you add an image, of course, I encourage you to add a alt text, but for the point of speed, I'm just going to remove that. And what I can do is do exactly what I was just saying, which is remove that header. I'm going to keep the border for the time being, just to show the difference. And now, if oops, I do want to remove that title. There we go. You can remove the title just by deleting it. There we go. And save. And if I turn editing off, now we have this image here. Now I can move that around. I can add that to the header block, for example, and I can add a couple of images here. And these can also then be linked. So turning that off, this is potentially where you might add maybe a slightly smaller version, and hopefully not a pile of $100 US bills, but you might add your logo here via an HTML block, and you could potentially have some text along the side here saying, welcome to my, the Totara learning site. Here you'll be experiencing blah, and add some text in here. And of course, because it's an HTML block, you've got the HTML editor, so you have the opportunity to add some content in here. If you want it side by side, I suggest putting in a table so that you can align it nicely. So using the HTML table builder, I'm just going to have 1 row and 2 columns. And I'm going to move that image. No, that didn't quite work. Add that image back in there. All right. And I'm going to try and delete that. I should have deleted that first rather than trying to drag and drop. And then here I can add in my content here. And of course I can put in as much formatting as I like, make that of different sizes, and go absolutely crazy in here. Right. Again, to see what it looks like, you need to keep on turning editing on and off so you can, but you see I've got a bit of a gap at the top, but this is one way that you can add some brand information within your Totara Learn site. I think better than the HTML block at the top, I think the featured links block works a little better. So I would recommend that you keep these there we go. You can keep your HTML blocks to the side and maybe use them for navigation within the site or to areas related to the site. There's bunches of questions, Matt. I see there's a couple in Q&A as well. Is there anything that we need to cover?
So yeah, lots of nice questions coming in. Here's a good one from Jill asking, can you theme per audience?
You can't apply a theme to an audience at this point, no. It is definitely a ticket that we've got within the tracker. It's actually it sounds so simple when you say it fast, but it's actually pretty complicated because you need to think about what happens if the individual belongs to more than one audience. So we're kind of working through how that might work for future releases.
Okay. Tony's asking, have you tried editing the custom CSS to make a larger logo? So that's an option.
Yeah, you could certainly do that, again, beyond my capabilities in the scope of this session, but you could definitely engage a partner, or if you have local skills, to override the standard CSS in the basis theme.
Okay, and then Tim's asking, can course themes be changed okay?
Yeah, yeah. So if you have all of, let's say for argument's sake, you've got 10 custom themes that have been developed for you and installed on the site. If you go into a particular course, if you're an administrator or a course manager, you can go into the settings, and then there'll be, pretty sure I turned it on, but I didn't switch on after talking about it, but under appearance you'll have another option, which is select theme, so that you can change the theme really quickly, and assuming you haven't, yeah, I can't think of any scenario where you could bust a theme via configuration. That's the whole point of a theme and how it works.
Jill's asking a similar question. So how do you set 2 or more basic configurable themes on a site? So that
You can, is the answer. So to have multiple themes, you need another theme installed at the back end. You can configure one theme, which is in this case, we've only got the default, which is basis, but you could have any number of themes installed, and they would also have these theme settings, but you could only have one set by configuration. If you wanted more, you could apply them at the user category and course context, but those would have to be installed at the back end by your hosting provider.
Great. Lisa's saying the HTML table is not very responsive. So with that said, is that really the best use for that? Or is the HTML table code percentage base as it's more responsive?
Do you mean like it's kind of hard to pick the color from the table? Is that what you mean?
Possibly.
The other option is to go through like color codes. Like I said, there's a number of external tools online where you can add a color, and it can give you the code, or you can hover over the color that you like with a color picker and then enter in the code directly. So you can just type it in. That's not going to work at all. It's going to freak out at me. Did that answer your question?
I'm just going to ask Lisa to try and clarify that in a minute or two, and we'll come back to that. If you can try and clarify it, Lisa, for us, and then we'll come back to it later.
Okay.
Move on to the next point, and then we'll come
Sure.
back.
So we've got the HTML blocks, and we can have any number of those. So you can do whatever you like with that. And having a play around with headers and borders, you can have these kind of floating images as you like. That is with a border. I don't know if that is a great example of using a border, but you can make that decision. Better along the top here is using the featured links block. So this allows you to have one or several tiles or images spanning across either one of the side blocks, but I like to use it across the top of the page because it gives you some really exciting options in terms of how it displays. So when you go to add a tile, you can choose whether it's going to be a single tile that's always going to display there, or whether you're going to have a gallery, so it will be a rotating image. And then there's a few different options in terms of how it will appear, in terms of the image, whether it sits inside the tile or it goes to the far edge, or it's called fill tile. The size of the icon, any background that you might have in terms of color, and the image itself. So I'm just going to add one at this point. Actually, I'm going to do gallery. So it's going to, there's some interesting options around gallery. So you can have it sliding in and out or fading in and out between the different images that you upload. So I think I'll go with all of those defaults, except I'll just speed it up very slightly. So I'm going to save and edit, and then because it's a gallery, I need to add multiple images. So this is where I can start digging into all of the different images that I uploaded. And like I can show you that you can also desktop drag and drop a bunch as well. You can drag and drop if you want. I think that default. So I'm just going to stick everything going to Google at the moment, but of course you can link to something that's internal or external within the site, and then choose whether it opens up into a new tab or not. Oh, now that's a trick for young players. It has to be HTTP. There we go. Oh, what's wrong with that? Oh, I didn't give it an alt text. Whoops, I didn't give it an alt text. So this is another step towards accessibility. So that's the first image. If I add another image, again, I'm just going to learn from my previous mistakes and set that to go to Google and make sure I have an alt text, and then I add another image. So from the bottom here. And save changes. And I can keep on adding as many as I like. So this is going to be only 2 rotating images, but I'll just add that. And to see what it looks like, I can just turn editing off. And you can see that I've got the navigation where I could bounce backwards and forwards. And then every 3 seconds, then we've got a rotating image, but I can also manually skip backwards and forwards. Now that's one small icon, and this is where I'm going to flip back to, or flip over to my local other site, which has more content in it, so you can see what the finished product is. It sort of feels a little bit like a cooking show, where I've got one that I've finished. So this is again my local site with just a bunch more images uploaded, but exactly the same idea. We've got rotating images going backwards and forwards, in fact the same people shaking hands, and we've got the option of having content, a title along the top here, and featured links can also go to different courses, programs, or certifications. So that's what it looks like on the front page. If I go to a dashboard, you can see some different options. This is again the featured links block, and we have medium or large size tiles here. Nothing's rotating, it's just a big display. If I skip through some different dashboards, you can see this is a number of small tiles, and this one is one big long tile. Now this big long tile is probably more what you'd want to add to your front page. You can have a call to action along the top here optionally. And as we go through, we can scatter through. Previously, this would have to be done with JavaScript and front-end developer magic, but now anyone can upload an image and send a link to it and use it as a way to provide interest in navigation and a little bit of a dynamic nature to your site. So Matt, was there did we get to the bottom of the question?
I think I'm going to actually let Lisa speak later, and we'll come back to that one.
Oh,
with regards to featured links, can the featured links tiles be made responsive so they scale to fill the width without making them all full width?
Well, yeah. I mean, this here hopefully is what answers that question. Please yell out if it's not, but it goes to the width of the content.
Yep, so the main one on the top can be full width.
Yeah.
So another question, how can we change the header background in a featured link block?
So like this little bit of grey bit here, I'm assuming you mean. Actually, if I go to this one here, let's have a look if that's something that we can change. So no, not in those settings. Let's have a look. Let's see if we change this to something green and horrible. Let's see what this looks like. All right, so it doesn't. Okay, so yes, you can. What's interesting is that the background is that delightful bright green, which you can still see if you've closed your eyes. But the grey of the heading is having an effect on that green background, so it's kind of giving it a grey balance. So yes, but I think you'll need to do some colour alchemy to get that right. That looks to me like that's a theme default, that the heading, given it's not changing when you add the background colour.
Okay, and Sue's just asking, can we use this feature for upcoming courses you want to feature?
You can, yeah, you can add tiles for courses. When you say upcoming courses, if the course isn't open yet, then you probably want to have this as a placeholder and maybe go to an internal page which describes the course or what the course is going to be versus the actual course. But when you add a tile, you can add it as directly to a particular course, which you then select. So let's say you want it to go to the mentoring and supervising, then you can have it go to that course. If it's upcoming, as in it's not open yet, you'll need to find some sort of placeholder page, course page to send it to. But that's exactly one of the purposes of the featured links, is to highlight featured courses, programs and certifications and internal pages which are particularly important for learners and managers as they go into the course.
Okay, and just for Lisa, I'll just say we'll come back to your question at the end, just to not disturb the flow of the webinar.
Cool. So those, I'm flipping back to the blank site so you can see what we've done so far. So this is just a single featured link. So typically you would probably either have one big one which stretched across here. In fact, let's do that now so it doesn't look like I haven't done anything for you guys. So configure. Oops, no, it's the actual, not the tile, it's the block itself. So we want to go full width. Oh, this is some big settings. Okay. So we've got the featured links here, and because it's showing featured links here, this is where those block settings are important. So we can go in here, back to configure links, and we can override the block title, and we can hide the border in the header. And that means it's floating there versus having a block around it. So it immediately looks a lot better in terms of just having a blank space there. Also on the front page, another option for you is, again, when editing is turned on, is there is actually, even though it's not immediately obvious, this first central block here, area here, is in fact a topic block, just like you would see within a course. It's often easy to miss, but what you can do is add content within here, so a little blurb, so welcome to your site, and you can do that in two ways. One, you can go to edit summary, and you can edit some topic summary text here. So you can hear my heavy typing, and save. Or you can insert a label here, just like you can within a course, and you can then add images and some slightly more exciting HTML here. So this is where, again, you might use a table or a series of images or text here. And again, I'll just do a lorem sim here, and I'll just copy and paste. I probably should have the lorem ipsum page up, so, or maybe the bacon ipsum, I don't know. So you can add some imagery or just plain text here on the front page as well, although I suggest imagery because it is it's a lot nicer, because by default there's a lot of text on screen. There's a lot of stuff for people to do, so removing the amount of text that you can and replacing with imagery where it makes sense is definitely recommended. Now, the other thing, I'm just going to scroll up so that's not hurting anyone's eyes skipping across here, is on the front page, is you can actually create and add links to images here. And one way to do it is by creating site level images. And this comes back to I'll touch back on why I'm adding this image later on in our session. Basically, you can store images at a variety of context within the system, and you can create a link or have a unique URL for that image if you want to embed that image in other areas of the site. So if you want anyone who has access to the site to access or see that image, you need to store it at the site level. The way to do that, or the easiest way to do that, is by adding a block called the main menu block. Now, the main menu block is where it becomes a little bit more like a course environment, where you can add activities or resources again without them sitting here in that topic section and kind of dominating that central content area. And you can add a file, which might be an image, or a label, which might include an image. So if I add a file here and call it example site image, oops, and I'm going to add, just to make it, add my honey badger, and I'm going to save and display that. And what I'm going to do is copy that image location, and you can see if I post it there into my browser that it has a unique Totara specific URL. So my local site's called Totara 12B, and it's got a unique link there. So I want to remember that. So I've just posted there so I don't lose it. So there's that image. Now, if I don't want anyone to be able to see that image, I can just hide or remove the main menu block. But you can add as many as you like, and you simply delete that main menu block. It doesn't remove that image. The image still is stored there, and then you can do interesting things with that image later, which I'll touch on in just a moment. The other thing that you can do via configuration in terms of just navigation and look and feel is actually change what appears here in what's called the user menu. To do that, under the administration area, you go to users, and this is wrong, I've suddenly gone blank. User menu, I know that is in the theme as well. There we go. So under appearance, there is the user menu, and you'll see that this here matches what we saw in that top page. So we saw grades, messages, preferences, and you can change that. It's a pretty standard kind of interface here. The hardest thing will be finding the pipe icon on your keyboard probably, but you give it a short name, has to exist within the system, and then you can say where it links to, and so this is the part of the URL that's unique to your site. So it would be your site here, and then the link, and then how it displays. So this calls the icon, this first part. This part calls the location, and this here shows what to display within the user menu. So you can create shortcuts to different areas within your site by adjusting this user menu area. I'm going to move on to dashboards unless there's some questions on that, Matt.
No, a specific question on that. Just a different question from before was,
Oh, yeah.
if you wanted to copy a featured link block from one solution, for example, one Totara site, to another solution, to a different Totara site,
Oh,
could you do that?
you could do that. You could do a backup, and that includes blocks. So if it was just one featured links block, probably what I would do is create it within a course rather than the front page, but that's just me. And then you can do a backup and include the featured links block. If I jumped to the final step, hang on, I might go through here. Oh, that's not going to be very helpful. Yeah, you should be able to do it through a backup and restore. I don't want to go through this process now. You can see my different color buttons now really easily. Yeah, so you should be able to do a backup and then restore just that block within your front page. I've actually never tried that. That's a really interesting idea.
Okay, Ben is asking a question. Can you use something like Flexbox with divs to align things responsively, which might be a bit out of the scope of this webinar?
Yeah, I'm afraid I don't know what Flexbox is. I think Ben's trying to trap me. No, I'm sorry, I don't know. Again, maybe we have a session with a front-end designer at another time for more specific and technical questions. But you know, try it and let us know on the forums if it works.
Great. That's it for now for questions.
So I covered a little bit around dashboards. You can do exactly the same thing in terms of adding different blocks and using the featured links blocks and the HTML blocks to your front page, leveraging the header and the footer regions for dashboards. Because I was talking about the different options around featured links, I jumped to the course that I'd created before, which was around, my site before, which showed you the different options and how you can have different images and different sizes of images here. And that's really just what I wanted to show in terms of dashboards. The other thing, of course, is that there's a few dashboard blocks that are only available within or really relevant at the dashboard level, and that's particularly around things like your tasks and alerts. While not necessarily a design feature, it is really great to have those attached to dashboards. The other thing that some people might not even think about is having a dashboard which helps an individual navigate through all of their different dashboards. There is a dashboard block, but maybe you want a more graphical interface or a different option around bouncing between all the different dashboards that you might particularly have access to. So if you're an administrator and a course manager and a learner, you might want one area where you create a nice graphical navigation to bounce between those dashboards as well. So a dashboard for dashboards. Okay, so I was talking about adding site images, and the reason I wanted to add a site images is because I need it for the next thing. So when you first log into a site, assuming that you've got login forced like I do here, you see a very plain login screen, but you can actually make a few changes to this area here. Particularly this area on the right. So you can add custom instructions for how to create an account or how to reset your account details or how to just register a new account depending on the different authentication options that you have allowed on your site. And to do that, you go here and log in as administrator, go into site administration and go to plugins. And then under plugins, under authentication, you can go to manage authentication. And then as you scroll down, there's a little area here called instructions, and this is where you can add some instructions about how to create a new account. I'm getting nervous about my typing now. Where to go? Who to ask? And again, you can use tables or whatever you like to add here. And if you have the skills, you can always flick to the HTML view and do some fanciness there. But this is also where you can embed that site level image. So an image that needs to be stored at the site level so everyone can see it. And you can see if I go to embed an image, it wants that URL, which might still be, oh yes, it's still be sitting in my clipboard here. So that's that link to the picture I sent before. And oops. And then you can save that image. And then if I go to save changes and then log out, you could then see that you've got some options here in terms of designing that login page as well. And that's why adding site images or site pages allows you to do that. All right, any questions before I move over to the catalogue?
Raoul's asking a question again, but I think with Raoul, we'll come back at the end, and then if we move on now for everyone.
Okay. Right. So the catalogue is one of those areas where you can spend a lot of time going backwards and forwards. I'm not going to do a full catalogue update now just because then I'd have to create a bunch of courses, programs and certifications to see what you look like. But what I want to do is quickly show you that you can upload a new default image. So rather than the grey swirliness that we have here, you can upload your own default image. So you can go to the courses and categories. Takes a second, and then you can go to custom icons. I'm talking about custom icons, not custom images. Oh, we'll go to custom images, custom icons. And you can upload a range of course icons and program icons. So where those display, and I'm just going to flip over to my 12 site, which is fully configured. The course icons can be displayed here as a hero image on the top left-hand side of the tile. These are all custom icons. So you see that box is a standard icon too. And you can also potentially have it displayed within your tile or item view as well. But you can upload any number of course icons there, and then they will then display. Actually, I'll upload a couple here. Come on, pick up 3. That's a little tick. And when you go to create or edit a course, you can choose that particular icon. So under settings and course layout, you can choose the icon. So the default is the box, and there's a series of default images that are available. And at the very start is that custom icon that I just uploaded there. So you can upload any number as you like. It's not just one across the entire site. Upload a bunch, and then when you create a course, you can choose which icon to use or to change as you need to. And the same applies for programs. That works in exactly the same way. When you edit a program or certification, and you can go into a program. Oh, I don't have a program. If I create a new program, then you can see what the icon you can choose from all the available icons. So I haven't uploaded one for a program, but again, otherwise it would show up the top there. So you can choose those icons. And that means that you can create a bit of variety across your catalog. You can be consistent with your icons so that they might be used to perhaps indicate difficulty or level or subject matter or some sort of competency. You can be a bit creative with how you use the icons. Now, since I was there on the programs page, this is where you can set the default image for all programs. So rather than, again, the grey swirliness, you can add a default image. It's a bit of a hidden option here. And for courses and programs, for some reason it's eluding me. I'm sure it's really obvious to anyone that's not under pressure to find it right now. Maybe it's under course default images. There it is. So you can have a default image there for the catalogue. I'm so close. So you, again, rather than the default image, which looks like this for courses, you can have your own default image here, so that even if you don't set a custom image for your catalogue, it can still have a graphical feel to it rather than this kind of rather plain grey. Again, drag and drop, or you can browse and add. In terms of the individual course image, you create that or edit that when you create the course. And if I go into my one course that I have here in this particular site, my example course, again through the settings and appearance, I can then select any sort of image that I like. We've got the lady in the yellow hat. So the other thing I would say around catalogue, because it can be a slow process, is make one change at a time. The catalogue that you see on my site here, you can see that I'd like to think that it looks reasonably nice. It's very visual, and there's a lot going on, but this took a lot of backwards and forwards and experimentation. And part of this was just me turning everything on one item at a time to configure how I want it to look so I could get the best option. Do be aware that, again, less is a little bit more, but having some icons here does make it look nice. And then with your, this is your item area, your detail area, you can embed images as well within the description field or any custom field that allows HTML. So I encourage you to use imagery here. And as you like. Any questions on the catalogue? I'm looking at the time now.
Yeah, it's getting a bit late. No, it was a question from before from Sue. So, did the icon have a description when Meredith hovered over it? Because we're a little bit back.
It has the name of the course that it's linked to. Yeah, it doesn't. The icon itself doesn't have an alt text. It's just the name of the course.
Lisa's asking, how did you get the icons, for example, under less than 2 hours? The timing icons at the bottom. See on the HR system one. There's less.
Oh yeah. That there is a custom field. So I went into courses and categories, and I went into custom fields here. And you can see I've got a bunch of custom fields, and one of them was a menu of choices, hours of study. And then whenever I created a course, I added a value, and then I chose to display that when I went into the catalogue. I said that I wanted it to show 2 placeholders, and one of those placeholders would be the custom field, which was hours of study. I made that sound super simple, but I appreciate that there's a lot happening on that. Basically use custom fields and then maybe look at the Academy course on configuring the catalogue, because it is quite a sophisticated piece of functionality. And then use one of the text fields to select that custom field, and then you can use it as a filter within your catalogue.
Okay, another question. How was the featured tag added to the at catalog page?
Oh, okay. So in configure catalog, under the general options, you can choose what deems an item as featured. So by default, it's category at the moment, but it can be based on any of your custom fields that you've created that are text-based, or some predefined options like the type of course it is, the format of the course, and any tags if you happen to have a selection. So if I select category, then I can choose which category makes it featured. Or I can just do it by, I can have a checkbox custom field, which might be new or important courses, and I check that, and then that becomes a featured course on that catalogue.
Just an earlier question from Daniel saying, are site level images therefore available without authentication?
You need to, well, it depends on your site. So if you have got forced login, then the user will have to authenticate to see it. If you don't have forced login, then they can, if they've got that URL, see that image. Or if you've linked to that URL in some way or displayed that image, then they'll be able to see it. Okay. So really quickly, I want to just show you that you can upload custom images for certificates that you create. So you go to plugins for that, and then under activity modules, you've got certificate, and you've got an upload area here where you can upload different borders, watermarks, seal images, not images of seal, but images of seal images and signatures, which once you've uploaded them at the site level, they'll be available to you when you add a certificate to a course, or many certificates to a course. So that's another area where you can add a bit of custom branding. There are, of course, the ability to update and customize the main menu navigation along here. So under navigation and main menu, you can add and remove different items, and you can select the visibility of those items as well, noting that you can set it to be audience-based visibility, or you can do a preset, which is an example where it could be, let's see, so custom access rules. It can be based on whether you've been logged in or not logged in, or whether you have access to other areas or what. So you can choose who can see particular navigation items along the main menu, which is an interesting way of having a very different kind of personalized experience for learners or different types of users when they log in. And I'm really pretty much at time now. I only wanted to talk about orphaned activities, but we've talked about that in previous webinars, so probably better to use the time for those outstanding questions, Matt.
So within the certificate, how do you position the elements?
When you create a certificate, you can select the elements, but you can't change where they sit. There's a default location. If you want to change that, that is, I believe, actually within the theme. So your partner should be able to adjust that. Yeah, I think there is the ability to upload changes to the default certificate, so you can move around those, like where the seal appears, but there is a default location.
Okay, so another one from Daniel, potentially Banana Skin. Can you use vector images for certificates because they are all rendered as PDF anyway?
What was that, sorry?
Can you use vector images for certificates?
Oh, another banana skin.
Yeah.
Yeah, possibly. Give it a go. Let us know. Again, not a front end designer, so yeah. I usually stick with my PNGs and my JPEGs, to be honest. But have a look. It would be nice to know that it could scale.
Okay, so those are the ends of those questions. We had some questions from before, but what I might do is let a couple of people speak. So
Yeah,
if you wanted
that's
to
exciting.
wrap up for sort of this main section of the webinar and then have a little chat to those people who had specific questions at the end now.
Yeah.
Was there anything else you wanted to say about everything else?
No, I just want to say thank you everyone for joining and being so engaged. Sorry I couldn't answer more of the technical questions, but we can look at maybe having another session with someone who is a designer, front-end designer or developer to provide more of that technical information. But yes, thank you so much. And if you think of anything afterwards, there'll be an area in the community to discuss it within the forums.
Okay, so anyone who wants to stay on for a couple of minutes, we'll try and answer some of those other questions for you, if that's okay. So before, Meredith, you were showing a picture of the dollar sign, money, money, money. And Lisa had a specific question about that. I was a bit confused what the question directly was. So I'm going to let Lisa speak now, if you're available to speak, Lisa, and maybe ask the question again. Hi, Lisa, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, great. So I've been customizing the theming with the CSS and everything, and with the use of the HTML block there where you have the money image and the lorem ipsum,
yeah,
we used a table setup when you were editing that HTML. So I was asking if by default so if you turn it under editing, you're able to select how many columns you wanted, and
yeah,
I didn't see in detail if it allowed you to mention the width of the columns or however you wanted to, but I was mentioning that tables naturally are not responsive, they're not friendly. So I was asking if Totara on its own automatically defaults to percentage-based columns.
I don't know the answer to that, I'm afraid. I know that the tables aren't responsive by default. Within the community, we use this technique in terms of using tables, and they're set to be percentage based, so they are responsive. So perhaps if you'll have to manually edit the HTML to allow that.
Sometimes use Bootstrap as well to try and go a bit deeper, but yeah. We can get someone to try and answer that before Lisa. I'll try and ask some of my colleagues as well if we can get another answer for that as well, Lisa.
Yeah, that would be great, because currently I actually just leveraged the grid system that you guys already have in place with, which is Bootstrap based. So I just used some of your classes to get that same result. But if I could do it with the tables, I was just wondering if that would be an easier to support long term, because once you start putting all custom HTML in these HTML blocks, I feel like long term it's hard to support if you guys update something and classes change.
Okay. Okay. We'll see if we can come back to that one. I'll see if I can get Jordan to answer, but thank you for your question, Lisa.
Thank you.
And then another question from Raul. So Raul, we're going to let you speak now as well. If I can. Nope.
Go
Okay.
on.
Hi, Raoul. Can you speak now?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi. Actually, I have one question. Let's suppose if I have a report table block on my dashboard and which has a report link which contains at least 12 or 13 columns. When the reports appearing on the block, it doesn't comes with the all the columns. It only show like 6 column on the report table block, and then I have to scroll it right to see the other rest column. So is it possible all the column could be fixed in the report table block?
Wow. Okay. So that's tricky, because if it doesn't fit the, oh god, that backwards and forwards is doing my head in. You've got a lot of columns there.
Yeah.
If you were to shrink them down, then they'd be really tiny. So it sort of feels like a scroll is probably the better option. If not, can you move that block to the center area rather than having it the side? There might be a bit more space for you if you put it in the center column. Just thinking about the dashboard on the demo site. There's an example there where we've got a large report. It's not obviously a table, but it's large, and you've got more space if you put it in the center column versus one of the side columns.
Yeah, my block is in the center in the dashboard, but
And
still it's, yeah.
in the center, okay. Yeah, I mean, I think by default it's working as it should, which would be introducing a scroll. Otherwise, the content would be too small to actually see. But maybe you could look at some sort of override. But yeah, I guess I wouldn't recommend it. I would probably suggest that you add a link instead on the dashboard to view the report in the standard report interface.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for your question.
Okay, that was mostly all the questions, Meredith.
Excellent. Well, thanks everyone for your questions. I'm sorry I couldn't answer more technical questions, but you know, I did my best. We've had a good number of participants, so thank you so much for joining us. I hope you all continue to be happy and healthy, and we look forward to our next webinar, and hopefully we'll see you there. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks a lot.